gotta go live.
Hello, everybody. So I'm here to hopefully give another voice lesson. We'll just wait and see if some folks join in. We got a couple of minutes here, so hoping that if any of you have some questions or whatever, you'll just put them in the comments, and we'll see how we do here. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes. Oh, we have somebody already. Hello, a couple of more. Hi, Joanne. Thanks for joining in. We'll just wait a couple of more minutes and see if we have some others join in, and then we'll get started. So, yeah, we have a few more joining in. So, okay, so I'm going to get started. My name is David Morton, and I have given you one voice lesson already, but I think we're going to do a bit of review of what I did before we jump into some new stuff. So for review, remember I talked about last time that we sit up nice and tall. I'm sitting, but if you're standing, the way you want to stand up tall is that you don't want to stand erect like a toy soldier, but rather just pretend that you have this thread like a marionette thread coming from the crown of your head, and it's just suspending you. So you're just suspended from your head. You're kind of loose, but you're tall. And I want you to put your hand on your tummy and your lower abdomen just under your rib cage. And when you breathe in, that part of your abdomen should distend, should expand, I guess is the way to put it. And then as you exhale, that should come in. Now, if you press it slightly, you'll actually make your voice louder if you push in. And that's because you're pushing the diaphragm up, and it's actually pushing the air out of your lungs. So when you want to create more intense volume when you're singing, you're actually going to, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but when you're singing, you're going to actually push or pull in your tummy a bit when you want to increase the volume, and that's to increase the pressure of the diaphragm on the lungs. So that is why you also expand your tummy as you're breathing in, because that is pressing the diaphragm down, and that creates a vacuum within your lungs. It's filling all your lungs with air right from the bottom to the top, so you're getting the full capacity of your breath every time you do that. So you're breathing in, your tummy goes out, and then on your exhale, you're pushing your tummy in. Now, if you've got your hand on your tummy, you can feel your tummy going in, but you can actually push it slightly if you want to try it. So that when you're exhaling, you're just talking like this, and then as you push in, you can press a bit harder. So the idea here is that you are increasing your intensity. Now, as we also talked about, as the air comes up out of your lungs, it's hitting your vocal cords, which are two muscles on the inner side of your, hi Jess, on the inner side of your throat by your larynx there, and they pull apart, or you can bring them together, and you have that control. So then the air comes out of there, and you want it to fill your resonant chamber. So again, if you think of yourself just being suspended by the string from the crown of your head, you think of the sound coming up out of your vocal cords and coming up through your forehead. So if you're thinking of the sound always coming out of your mouth, the problem is it's like a karate chop. So when a guy is doing a karate, or a girl are doing a karate chop, they think through the board that they're trying to break. They don't think of the impact at the board, they think of it past the board, so that when they hit the board, they have the full impact of their swing. Kind of the same thing we're talking about here vocally. If you think of your voice just coming out of your vocal cords here from your lungs and coming into your mouth and coming out of your mouth, you're not getting the full impact of the volume that you have breathed in. So think of it coming up and out of your forehead, and think of filling the back wall of whatever room you're in. So that if you want to just fill this room that I'm in, the living room, so if I'm going to see if I can do this. So if I spin the camera, you notice, oh, there, see, my wife's got she always has Christmas lights on of some sort. She has always liked having Christmas lights up. But anyway, you'll notice that the wall is about, oh, I don't know, maybe 12 feet away. So if I want to just sing towards this phone, then my voice is only like da da da. But if I want to sing so that I'm hitting the back wall, I think of it coming up over my forehead and aiming to the back wall, and I sing louder like that. And so what I'm doing is I'm thinking of the sound coming up out of my forehead and aiming at whatever is the furthest in the back. And that gives you the idea of the volume that you want to have for the space you're in. But the other thing it does is that it gives you the full impact of whatever you're doing. Now, what if you are trying to sing higher notes? So you got to sing way up here, and when you sing way up here, suddenly your voice gets all thin and stretched out. So what you do is you drop your jaw just a little bit, you tilt your head a little bit, and you drop your jaw a little bit more, and you're still thinking of the sound coming out of your forehead, and that will force the vocal cords in a way that it will give you the pressure you need to get those high notes. So that if I just sing a high note like this, hi, I'm singing way up high. Now, admittedly, that's falsetto, but if I sing way up high, so let's see if I can get a note here. So I confess I didn't have a chance to warm up. So, bum, bum, bum. So if I sing here, it's all thin. But if I open my mouth a bit more by dropping the jaw and tilting my head, the sound becomes fuller. Then if I just sing like this, did you hear the difference between the thinner sound and the more full sound? And it's just simply from tilting your head a little bit and dropping your jaw a little bit more. So those are some hints for you. Let's see, some other things that also have to do with this is what I talked a little bit about last time. It's called the glottal attack. So the glottal attack is just what it is you normally, when we're talking, we don't really think about what our vocal cords are doing, and so the sound is just bursting out of there between the vocal cords at various times. But instead, what we want to do is we want to actually have control over our vocal cords. So we want to tell them what to do because they're a muscle. So all the stuff that's involved, the diaphragm, our vocal cords, the uvula, the small palate, all those things are muscles, our tongue. And all these help shape and move the sound. And the more that we have control over them in a singing venue, then the more control we have over the volume, the resonance, the timbre, all those things when we're singing. So the first one we want to work on is called the glottal attack. So I talked about this last week, where you when you exhale very quietly, you're trying to get your vocal cords to just click, open and shut. So it sounds something like this. If I can, hopefully you can hear it. I only got about one in there that was correct. I'm not sure if you can hear them. Can one of you comment just as to whether or not you could even hear any clicking at all from my throat? I don't want to come way up here into the camera and do this because that would just be too weird. But just let me know if you could hear it. I'll try it one more time. So. There, those were 4 clicks in a row, and I got them correct, a single click with each exhale. So that's what you're going for, and in doing that, then each note will be distinct and clear on its own. Okay, thanks, Joanne. I'm glad. I could move way up, but I just feel like it would feel awkward, both for me and I think for anyone viewing it, so we won't go there. So yeah, you correct, Jess. You are looking for just a very small sound, and it's the faintest of clicks. Now, if you take your fingers and you scoop them behind your earlobe and run your thumb along your jawline, and then move your palm up towards your cheek, you can actually hear yourself speak aloud or sing aloud, and you can actually hear yourself. And so when you go to make those clicks, you can hear them yourself. Now, the advantage to that also is that when you're singing, you can actually tell whether or not you're in tune, or if you've been getting a wrong note and the director keeps saying, hey, you're getting that note wrong. By just scooping like this, you can hear yourself, and you can actually correct it as you're singing. I don't know if you ever saw, I'm dating myself here, but anyway, if you saw the Live Aid concert way back, We Are the World, I think was the one, and you saw some of the singers when they were singing going like this, and that is because they're trying to hear themselves in the group that they are in. Now, they had headphones and monitors and everything else, but they were still trying to actually hear how they were sounding with the people around them. And that can help you in many different ways. So far we've got a few things. So we're trying to stand or sit with just pretending that we have a string suspending us like a puppet. So you're not erect, but you're just standing loose but tall, and everything's kind of straight. And then the other thing you're doing is you're breathing from your abdomen, and then when you go to exhale, you are exhaling in such a way that with every time you exhale, you are opening your vocal cords just once for that sound. Now, a way you can also improve that is, okay, so let's say I'm singing, I'll just grab a piece of song, music here that's in front of me on the piano. So the song in front of me is All Hail King Jesus. Sorry, my wife is she plays a piano at a church, so it's hymns that are on the piano right now. But anyway, All Hail King Jesus. So the first note is a C. All hail King Jesus. That's kind of low. Anyway, all hail King Jesus. Ah. So when you sing that first note, you know it's going to be an ah. It's an ah sound. So if you want to make sure that you're going to get that sound correct, then when you're breathing in, you actually breathe in making the sound ah. So you don't just breathe in and go like this, but you breathe in on the ah sound. So you go, all hail. Got to make sure I got the note right. All hail King Jesus. Ah. Now, if it was an E, so later on in the hymn you have all hail Emmanuel. E. So E is the next vowel sound. Now, it's in the middle of a phrase, so normally you don't have to breathe there. But if you were going to breathe there, E, E, E. So you breathe in, E. So you breathe in on the E. You don't go and then switch to E. So because when you switch like that, what happens is you're going to actually, your vocal cords are naturally going to close in a little bit to make sure that the sound, because the amount of air needed for a ah versus an E is very different. And so all your muscles work together to create the ah sound and to create the E sound. So the E has a bit more back pressure, and so therefore your vocal cords naturally want to close up a little bit. But you want to keep them open because you're singing, and a way in which you can fool your vocal cords is you're going to breathe in on the E sound and exhale on the E sound. So there's no change. So you're because otherwise, if you breathe in on the ah, like as if you're going to say an ah, your muscles and everything all are cued to make the ah sound. But then suddenly you're saying, oh no, I'm going to make the E sound. And you can see how it can get confused. So, excuse me. So therefore, you change your vowels as you're breathing. So as you're breathing in, you're preparing your mind, your muscles, everything for the vowel sound that you want to say. You're also cueing yourself in your head as to whether you're going to be going up or down. So by looking ahead as you're singing in the music, or if you're singing by ear, you remember how it goes and you know the part is coming up. Instead of just panicking going, oh my gosh, I can't hit that note, you think about, okay, actually I can sing that note. I know I can. And so you think over the note. And again, you're thinking of the sound coming out of your forehead. When you sing over the note like that, so, all hail King Jesus. So you're singing over it, because otherwise, if I just try and sing up to it, all hail King, I'm below it. I start singing flat. So now I emphasize that a little bit, but the idea is that when you breathe in, and I breathe in on the ah sound, all hail King Jesus. So when I sing that, it's a brighter, fuller sound because my muscles, everything is geared up for that. Then, if we add to that the idea that I want to hit the back wall, all hail King Jesus. So suddenly the sound is not only clear, but it has the volume and the pressure is needed to get to the back wall. And this is how you can sing without amplification. You may need a mic for recording yourself, but the mic is not necessarily needed for amplification when you sing in this way. So that's why you can sometimes see, I don't know if you've ever been to a stage production or something. Most stage productions now, the microphones are there for recording everything. But you'll notice that some have the microphone way back here, and you're like, how on earth are they getting to the microphone? Well, the microphone's picking up the vibrations that's coming from here, but also it's very evident then that they don't need the microphone for amplification. They just need it for recording purposes. And so actually having the microphone back here is better for recording than having it way up here. When it's way up here, the sound goes up and down, and it's hard for the sound person to keep it all level. Whereas if it's back here, because it's just picking up vibrations, the sound levels stay more stable for the sound person, but also it is dependent then upon you as the performer to make the sound intense or less intense, and etc., all because you're not using it for amplification, but simply for recording. And you do that all by this breath control and by some of these things that I was just talking about. So I kind of feel like I've been giving a fire hose of information here. Do any of you have any questions? Jess, I noticed earlier you were saying that with the clicking sound, you weren't sure whether or not you were doing it correctly. So all I can say is that you scoop your hand against your ear like this and along your jawline, and when you exhale, you're trying to make a click at the back of your throat, which in a sense is getting in touch with your vocal cords. Oh, hi, Karen. We have somebody from California on. That's cool. So anyway, you're trying to make this click at the back, and it's very faint. And so what you want to do is, I don't know. Boy, I've never actually had to think about how you make that sound. So you're just going. So it's kind of like you're about to go or something, or you're about to say something, but instead, all you're doing is you're making this click sound. So it's the interesting thing when you make that click sound is that you can actually hear if you make more than one at a time. And the idea is you only want one click, and that click represents your exhale at that moment. What this does is eventually you'll learn how to make that click blend in with as you're singing. And so it's not like you're going to have these audible clicks while you're singing, but what it is that you'll know with your breath that you are hitting each note distinctly. So the only time you don't want that is if you want to just slide up to a note, but most songs don't actually want that slide in there. Now, there is a style of singing, I think it's old country and western, they do that sliding, but even that sliding is purposeful. It's not because they're trying to search for the note. They actually put that as part of their style. But even then, their beginning of that and their end of that, it's still just with the one click. So another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I alluded to it earlier, about breathing in on the vowel sound that you're about to make. The other part of that is the actual shape of the vowels. So boy, I can really tell I didn't get a chance to warm up. Anyway, so at so you have the sound, but then you have a, e. Now, if you'll notice, when I said e, I didn't go e, but I actually went e. So you make almost like a French but not quite a French You are still making an e sound, so you make the e, and then you just bring your lips in slightly. So it e, e, e. And what that does is it keeps the it keeps the sound in what we call the mask, in the front portion of your face. If you go e, it drops back in your throat. So you want to keep it forward in the mask. So in order to help that along, it's like you go oh, e. So you just change your lips ever so slightly. So you have ah, e, ooh. I'm trying to remember the vowels. A, E, I. So ah, e, and then ooh. And so when you have these different vowel sounds, the idea is that you shape your mouth for the shape of the vowel that projects the most. So on the ah, so the part that projects the most is the back part of that vowel. So it's actually, each vowel is kind of 2, sometimes even 3 sounds, but they're blended together quite quickly. So the ah sound actually has a quick eh before it, and then ah. So ah, whoops, ah, ah. So you could eh, ah, eh, ah, ah. So, excuse me. So on the ah sound, it's the ah part that projects. not the initial part. So you want to get to the back part of that vowel very quickly. So that's why we don't start off with a, ah, because in a big choir situation, if you were to do that, you would still hear just ah. But we are singing, and when we're singing, we tend to just go to the vowel. But remember that there is other parts to the vowel. So the other part of the vowel is the O sound. So, and the O is the part that will bring it right up into the mask. So that's why with the ah, you want your jaw quite long, and you want your tongue nice and flat. Oh, oh. So you're almost doing an O sound, but by flattening your tongue, it becomes an ah sound. But it's actually more like an O sound. And then E. So again, with the E sound, you still have an A in there, but you're getting to the of the E sound. So there's the part you want. E, E. So you kind of take the French but you make it more of an E by pursing your lips just ever so slightly. E, and all of a sudden you'll feel the vibration all up in here in your mask. So you can do that. You can play around with those by just doing different vowels. So what I do is I sing a lot of arpeggios as warm-ups, and I confess I didn't get a chance to do a warm-up today, and it's very evident. But anyway, so you play around with those vowel sounds, and you figure out which one, because each of us have a different vowel sound that we tend to have that is most brightest in our way we speak, in our way we sing. So some people have a lot of E in their voice, some people have a lot of A, and a lot of people, there'll be some that have a lot of ah, or a lot of O, or a lot of oo. So everyone's a bit different. So you play around by singing these arpeggios and using different vowels, and you'll find the one, you'll say, oh wow, I really like that vowel. Boy, can I really sing on that one? That tends to be the vowel that you tend to have a lot of in your voice. So that is not the one you need to work on. You need to work on the other ones. So for instance, I find that my oohs are quite weak. So ooh, see it's not there, but if I go ah, ah, or ee, suddenly I can really make it project better. But my oohs are weak. So arpeggios and thirds. Boy, you're stretching my musical theory from a long time ago. Yes, I believe it's thirds, except for the final octave when you're going from the fifth up to the final octave. So the first part of the arpeggio is a triad, and yes, that's in thirds. And then you're going up to the octave to make it the arpeggio. So you have the triad, and then you have the octave, which makes the arpeggio. Now, another thing that will help you figure out how you sing too is to do, I would just call it a scale, but what I do is I stay on the main note, and I go up one at a time and keep going back. So so what I do here is it helps a number of different things doing that. So one is it helps practice my intervals, so that when I come into a piece and I see, oh my goodness, there's this jump from this note to this note, because I've been practicing my intervals, I have a pretty good idea of where that interval is, and I won't have to guess too much. So I can get pretty close. Now, by only doing C major scale, hi Janae, only by doing C major scale. I'm not practicing things like tritones and stuff that's in jazz, but but still knowing my intervals helps. So ba ba bum 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 ba 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 ba. So I do those. Tend to do 2 octaves of those, and I tend to do a different vowel each time. So you can go e e e e e. Now I can tell that as I'm switching to the interval part on the way down, I could hear that I was doing more than one glottal click on each of those notes. Oh boy, got to do some practicing here. But anyway, what that does is it makes for a clear sound. So let's see if I can pay attention to what I'm doing, and let's see if I can try this again. Yeah, there was still a few in there, but it did improve a little bit. I have to say it's kind of hard trying to find the notes on the keyboard, watch the camera, and pay attention to what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm trying hard here. So this is a little different for me. Anyway, so the idea of the glottal attack, or where you're making the vocal cords click, you're getting that one click, is to keep the control you have of your breath using your diaphragm and your sound coming up into your resonant chamber. That click allows you to know when that's happening and how you want it to happen. So the other thing, and Janaea just brought it up, the other thing that by going over those scales like that, it actually helps expand your range. And I think, Jess, you were talking about that last time too, is how to extend your range. So by doing these intervals, and I'll do the same one again, and then you can keep going. Woo! Okay, that was falsetto. But the idea, though, is that by doing those intervals, your mind is able to always go back to the bass note, but you can practice going higher and higher and higher, or conversely, as lower and lower and lower. And so you can extend your range over time. It takes about, I would say, 3 to 4 months to see a result. But you have to be doing all these other things. You have to be doing the breathing exercises. I know that last week we talked about doing the hissing sound. So you're breathing in, and then now I'm overemphasizing the hiss so you can hear it. But what you're doing is by putting the sound, you're creating that's you're strengthening your diaphragm. And by strengthening your diaphragm, you are then helping yourself learn how to sustain notes, but you're also giving your diaphragm strength to go into those areas that are out of your range, whether it's the high range or the low range. So when you put it together with doing those intervals and doing those scales, you can actually slowly usually it's about 4 months or so, you'll notice that you'll get a couple of additional notes at the bottom and a couple of additional notes at the top. Now, something I haven't talked about yet, and I just realized, is that some of this stuff, and you're going to laugh at this, but that's okay, you'll know when you're doing it right because you'll start yawning. Like, oh, you'll just yawn right in the middle of your vocal stuff. And the reason that's happening is that it actually means you're doing it correct. I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but you're at a stage production in the chorus, or you're in the choir or whatever, and either the person next to you or you start yawning, and then other people start yawning. That's a good thing. That means you're doing it right because you're getting all the oxygen going. Remember that that all these things are muscles. And so you're giving yourself a workout. And by doing it correctly, by breathing correctly, you're actually giving yourself more oxygen, because when you're breathing from your abdomen, you're getting a full lung full of air. Because if you just breathe like this all the time up at the top, you're only filling about the top 1/3 or sometimes even the top quarter of your lungs. You're not giving yourself a full breath, which means you're not getting enough oxygen in your brain. We won't tell people who wear ties that that's a bad thing. All these businessmen that wear ties, bad idea. Anyway, we won't get into that. But if the people wearing ties were to have proper breath control, they get more oxygen to their brains and they do better. But anyway, we won't get into that. That was just a little joke put in there. But anyway, so excuse me. So the idea here is that you're breathing properly. So by breathing from your tummy, your diaphragm is coming down, and that's literally sucking the air into your lungs. Your lungs get that vacuum, and the diaphragm just pulls in the air. And so you're filling your lungs from the bottom right to the top. And then when we do this exercise like this, that hiss, you are holding the air in, but it's not like you're using your vocal cords in a bad way. But what it is you're strengthening your diaphragm and your vocal cords in order to hold that sound so that you can release it when you want. And that's where that glottal attack comes in, the click noise. Once you have that click, it releases the sound, and away you go. And that's the other thing. You also start belching and all kinds of stuff while you're doing these vocal exercises, because you're finally getting the air moving the way it should be. So anyway, let's see. So we've done quite a few things here today. And we've also done some review. How about another question? Does somebody have some other questions? I've kind of covered some stuff here, so maybe some people have a question I can try and address. We've got a bit of time, still about 20 minutes here, so if we can address something if you'd like. Jess, did I help you with your the click sound? I don't know if I did. Okay, well, let's see. So, I guess another thing that is okay. Actually, Janae, you're talking about having a lower voice. So, with a lower voice, one of the things that you can do is I talked earlier about how to sing higher notes, so maybe we could talk a little bit about singing lower notes. so if you're singing lower notes, so what you want to do is instead of literally warming up by going up scales, you actually want to warm up going down the scales. So, and slowly make your chord progressions going lower. La, 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 la. Hey, hey, hey. Sorry, I gotta look at the piano. So when we talked about doing lower notes, we talked about the fact that you would be, when we talked about doing higher notes, we talked about that you would just slowly tilt your head just a little bit, ever so slightly, and that you would drop your jaw. Now for singing lower notes, so as you sing lower notes, what you want to do is you actually want to slowly lift your head just ever so slightly, but you still want to drop your jaw, okay? But you're tilting your head just ever so slightly up. And what that does is it opens your throat a lot more. So think about, in an exaggerated sense, think about when they open up the airway for somebody where they're giving resuscitation and all that kind of stuff. You'll notice that they tilt the head and they drop the jaw. That opens the throat completely. So when you're singing lower notes, you want to open your column of air a lot more. And what that also does is it opens your when you open your vocal cords, then you have more air coming out. So so you would start singing a lower note. Bum, 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 ba, la, ah. So there's where I'm tilting my head up. But now watch if I don't. Notice how it gets thin and it starts going into the back of the throat. But if I tilt my head just a little bit, so when you tilt your head back a little bit, it opens the column of air and it stays forward in your mask. The reason you want it forward in your mask is because the sound resonates and vibrates in here, and it comes out brighter and fuller. So the whole idea is that when you're singing, no matter what you're singing, you want the song, the sound to go up into the front of your mask. The only time that changes, and I only encountered it a few times, the only time that changes is if you want to, if you want to change a character that you're singing. So, for instance, if I am singing, one of the songs from Les Miserables, and I'm singing the mournful songs of the men as they're arming for a battle they know they're not going to win, right? I'm singing that versus singing in the Phantom of the Opera, and you're singing in Cats or something like that, and you're singing one of the chorus songs from that. All of a sudden, you want it bright and full, and you want it forward. But in those mournful songs, you might want it slightly back in the throat, but it's still in the mask. But you want to change how it's going to sound. So that's about the only time you would change it. But for, I would say, 95% of the time, even 97% of the time, you want your music right here. You want to feel it vibrating here, under here, and up here, and around here. You want to hear it all. You want to feel it all vibrating. So you want to keep the sound forward in the mask. So as you are singing, by paying attention to the head position, that enables you to help yourself keep that sound forward. So let's see. Did we get any questions yet? Has anybody got some questions? We've got a few people on here. Wow, people have really been coming and going today. It's kind of interesting. So I think I must be getting into stuff that people are either quite familiar with or that it's a busy day. I know it is for us. We've got like 2 kids and myself all wanting the camera and the bandwidth at different times. So it makes it quite interesting today, trying to do e-learning and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm just trying to think if there's one other thing that we could cover. Let's see. What haven't I thought about yet? What haven't we talked about? Oh, I know what we haven't talked about. So, so I'm singing along. Jess, that is a good point. Yes, in fact, a lot of this, it would be good to be in front of a mirror to sing. The only problem with that is many of us who have our piano, it's not always near a mirror. So what I used to do is I would do my breathing exercises and that in front of the mirror, and then I would do any of the pitch exercises at the piano. But once I got some of the pitches pretty good in my head, I would sometimes do that in a mirror. Once you have a song memorized, sing it in front of a mirror, all those kinds of things. Excuse me. So yeah, singing in front of a mirror is a very good thing. The only thing is that as you are getting used to that, you may get very self-conscious about how your eyebrows are moving and who knows what all. But it's better to just sing it and sing in front of people. So another thing that I thought of that maybe we should talk about, we have about, looks like about 10-15 minutes left. So another thing that we could talk about is singing loud and singing soft. So you might have a spot where you have to go ba 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 ba, and then you have to sing the same thing, but then you have to sing it really softer. La, 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 la. Or you're right in the middle of the note, la, and you have a diminuendo and a crescendo in the middle of the note, especially in the big choir pieces, often for the long sustained notes. And there is a little, I don't know if it's a trick or what you want to call it, but when you have to sustain a note for a long time, one of the things is to not necessarily increase or decrease the volume, so not just a crescendo and decrescendo, but to actually increase the intensity at the end. So you're not increasing the volume, you're increasing the intensity. So now what do I mean about that? So let's say, la, 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 la. So here we go. So let's, first I'll just do it loud. Ya. And then I'll do a crescendo and decrescendo. La. Okay, so that's just strictly loud and soft. Now, listen when I change the intensity. So I'll try and remember the same pattern that I did. La. So I don't know if you could hear the difference, but if I just sing ya, and then I increase the intensity, ya, it has more of a driving sound. So the idea is that what you want to do when you have to sustain a long note is you want to keep the intensity going, whether or not, like wherever the volume is, doesn't matter. What you want to do is keep the intensity. And how you do that, so remember from one of the very first lessons I gave here today and also last time, is your diaphragm when you push in. So one of the things you can do is you find a friend you trust. A friend that you know, if you ask them to punch you in the gut, they're not going to really punch you in the gut, but you're willing to let them touch your gut. And what you do is you have them just push on your abdomen just a little. So here we go. So let's see if I can do this. La. So singing along, and then I push in, and the intensity increases. Now the volume also increases, but the intensity of the sound is increased. So the idea is that you are using your diaphragm to, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting the air that's here, this is the air, hello air, and you want the column of air that's coming up with that exhale, you want your diaphragm, your muscles, everything to be in tandem with the air. So whether you're breathing in or breathing out, the diaphragm is in tandem. It's not pushing and it's not weakening. It's right there with it all the time. But then there comes a moment when you want to increase the intensity. And so your vocal cords, you're still in control of them. You're not just pushing air through higgly-piggly, but you are using your diaphragm to push that air in a more deliberate manner. The reason that I talk about the fact that we don't want the air just coming out through the vocal cords is that can lead to problems, because you can get nodes and calluses developing on your vocal cords, and that is bad. There's singers, I think is Adele is one, where she's had 3 times now where she's had to get nodules scraped off her vocal cords and stuff, and it's not a good thing. Excuse me. And part of that has to do with the fact that sometimes her diaphragm isn't in tandem with her column of air, with what she's trying to do. She also sings a lot of low notes that are, to be honest, outside of her range. And that becomes problematic as well as she does that over time. And I think there's also been times when she hasn't been taking good care of her voice. But we won't get into that because I love her music. Her songs are amazing. But she's not going to have a long career if she doesn't take care of her voice. So, so what I am recommending, a lot of contemporary singers and that, they don't pay attention to this because that isn't the sound that people want. The sound that people want is kind of loud and husky sounding, and that loud and husky sound doesn't come from the way I'm teaching. I'm teaching like the classical boy choir sound, this very clear tone, and that isn't always desirable. Excuse me. But the idea here is that once you get the techniques down of making a clear sound, then you'll have the technique to understand how to make those other sounds and not hurt your voice. But if you start off with not having the technique behind you, then you can really do some damage. So my hope here is that we're giving some techniques for you that can cross, whether you're speaking or singing on stage or singing in front of a microphone or singing in a choir. All these breathing techniques and things are useful in a way that it gives you a foundation, a base from which to work that won't be harmful. So now I've totally lost track of what I was saying before. So I don't know. It's gone. I can't remember. Anyway, I think we're pretty much done. So I'm not sure what time we have. Yeah, we're about 7 minutes short. And we will have to continue this later. Any final questions that people may have, and I can try and answer them. This is coffee, just coffee. Any questions? Oh. Well, I think people are going, and I think I'll let everybody go, and we'll try this again. So God bless everyone, and we'll see you another time. Bye for now.